Hello, everybody. Great to be here one more time today, and welcome to another exciting episode of GSD Presents Top Global Startups, a podcast where we explore the minds and strategy of visionary leaders reshaping the world that we live in. I'm your host, Gary Fowler. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team of Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for 1.35 billion. Also, Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread, but opportunities are not. And with that, our special guest today, Rashed Hareb Al Mahiri, is a dynamic entrepreneur, investor, and business leader who is actively shaping the UAE's startup and investment landscape. He's a co-founder and CEO of Rentify, the UAE's first and largest rental rewards platform, transforming the rental experience for tenants and landlords alike. He's also founded Ordeosa, a thriving cloud kitchen company optimizing food delivery and dining across Dubai. His entrepreneurial journey includes expanding the Ice Cream Labs franchise internationally, consulting with global brands like Caribou Coffee, and playing pivotal roles as partner of Halian Ventures and managing director of investment at United Arab Bank. We're thrilled to dive into his insights and innovation, investment strategy, and how we continuously push his boundaries. Rashid, welcome to the show.
Thank
Good to
you,
see you.
Gary. Good to see
So,
you. Thank you so much.
you've launched several successful ventures. What inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
That's a very good question. I think at the beginning of my career, I started in audit with PwC. And you know how it goes when you're an auditor. You basically want to get out of it as soon as possible.
Mhm.
So I guess that pushed me on at least to go out on my own and start my own businesses. But even before that, towards the end, towards the last years of my university, I did delve into entrepreneurship just to um, uh, dig into it for a bit and explore what are the possibilities and if I actually fit or not.
No, that's important. And you've worked in sectors from real estate to food tech. What
Yeah.
common threads do you see between these incredibly diverse industries?
Well, it all comes down, I mean, you can always narrow it down to the end users and the technology used in both sectors. I'll start with the food sector. There's a lot of analysis when it comes to the product you're putting out, the consumer who is taking on. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, we were analyzing the consumer behavior. And then we found out that some nationalities would come in, let's say, as a family, 4 or 5 people, and they'll end up buying one thing and they share it together. And some other nationalities would come in, 3 or 4 people, and each one of them will buy something different. How did we do all of that? How did we analyze all of that? We use technology. So there's a cost, technology goes across both sectors. When it comes to real estate, honestly, it's untapped so far. And I'm sure we'll delve more into it, but there's a lot of technology missing from real estate today.
So Renify is an introduced. So, um, one other question: how's this innovative approach impacted the rental market in the UAE? What exactly does it do, and what kind of profound impact does it make?
Sure. So I'll give you a quick summary of the rental market in UAE. Everything digitized in UAE, specifically in Dubai, besides this, the real estate, the rental process.
Mhm.
So at the moment, or at least before Rentify, people would pay in checks. Um, they would pay quarterly or every 6 months. So if you come in as an expat, you move into Dubai. First of all, you're writing a check, which is something most people don't know how to do in this day and age. Second is you're expected to pay 6 months in advance.
Why
Uh,
is
so
that? Why do you do that, Rashid? Why do you pay 6 months?
I mean, it seems like this is the culture, at least in UAE and GCC. So it's not only limited to the UAE, but that is the culture, and people stuck to it. Regulations did not develop with the technology, let's say.
Hmm.
So to us, it was a broken rental process. So we had to fix it with technology. So when we came into the market around a year ago, we looked at the whole process. We looked at what's happening. Um, I'm also a landlord as well from the family side. I manage a couple of assets. So I've seen where the pinpoints are.
Hmm.
So we built the product around that, where we're calling it, it's like a PNPL. It's rent now, pay later, basically, RNPL, which in the rest of the world, it's something very common, but at least in the region, it is new.
No, that's amazing. And what are some of the biggest challenges you face in establishing Renify, and how'd you overcome them?
Um, To me, I think building a team is extremely challenging. I was reading a book recently, and there's the concept of people hopping onto the bus, and you have to choose your team as they come onto the bus. So we did a couple of tests. You sometimes get people on board that are not really fitting to be on that bus, to be honest. So far, I mean, from regulations, there aren't any issues from the consumers end. They're extremely happy to have it. Um, the hardest challenge so far is getting the right team.
Yeah, I mean that's the so sometimes we forget, right? Especially in Silicon Valley. One of the things that's important, of course, is a team. But the other thing is storytelling. 90% of building a unicorn in Silicon Valley is the storytelling. It's not the product or service. And sometimes we forget about it, about making it enchanting and exciting so people want to grab it out of your hands. And we see that. I've lived in I lived in Russia 12 years. I lived in places like the UK, Germany, and one of the things it's like each one of the cultures. But when you wet it all down, it's how good is it in terms of the presentation, right? The storytelling part of it, and
Yeah.
it's 90%. We forget sometimes. Uh, so cloud kitchens and an Ordiosa or Order Osa.
Orderosa. Yeah.
The cloud kitchen concept has exploded globally. What sets Ordorosa apart in Dubai's? I mean, you guys are really competitive, right? So how do you differentiate yourself in that kind of a hyper competitive market?
Yeah. When it came to the cloud kitchens, so we looked at it as a whole. Previously, I was with Ice Cream Lab, so I'm in the field when it comes to food.
Who were you with?
Um, so before with Ice Cream Lab, which we can get to it as well as
I see. I
so
got
I,
it. Got it.
yeah, before those. So I've been in the F&B for at least 7 years before that. When the cloud kitchen hype came along, let's say, we analyzed the market and we saw what are people looking for.
Mhm.
They're looking for, of course, quality, price, but they're looking for speed. So what we did is we developed a model within containers that would fit in neighborhoods. So a small container that would have 5 to 8 pans in it, and then we developed the kitchen floor in a way that food can be in and out in ideally 7 minutes.
Wow, that's
Um,
amazing. That's interesting.
yeah, I mean, we didn't hit the 7 minutes. We did hit 10 minutes, but still, it was very fast. And then because we're close, we're within neighborhoods, we can deliver it within 15 to 20 minutes.
And how do you anticipate technology and consumer behavior? How does it really shape in the future of virtual dining? What's happening with that? How are things going to change, and how are they changing?
Yeah, so we've seen the trend now. People are going back to brick and mortar in a way. So you've seen a lot of the cloud kitchens either shutting off or actually moving into brick and mortar. So
Mhm.
that's what we're doing. What we did is we onboarded a lot of, we have a huge community of home-based food businesses in UAE. So what we did is we did a small program with them where they can start testing with us, and then we have so far 2 success stories where they went from home to our kitchen and then out to brick and mortar. So this is the trend now, people going back to brick and mortar.
No, I love that. So let's talk about ice cream labs. So expansion and franchising with ice cream labs. You've created or successfully expanded ice cream labs to over 100 units globally. What lessons have you learned about international franchising door number one. And door number two is, how do you identify the right markets and partners for global expansion?
Uh, how long do you have, Guy?
Well, yeah,
There's a lot to
yeah,
to
no, I
unpack here.
understand. But the one thing is we have quite a few. We've got about 1.3 million views in terms of the show. We've done a lot of the podcast, 1,400 almost. But one of the things is they're trying to figure out the hacks, right? And
Yeah.
so the secret is, how do you figure out those hacks to be able to help your business? So if you'd say, let's look at what lessons have you learned? What are three lessons that you've learned from international franchising? What's most important, the three most important things?
Yeah. I'll try to summarize it and bring it down to three things. First of all, choosing the franchisee. At the beginning of the journey, most of us, at least when franchising out, we look at expansion against quality.
Mhm.
We had a lot of experiences where we signed franchisees at different countries and they open one or two units, and we close them down in a couple of years, because then we figured out that these are not the right partners. So the first thing is choosing the right partner, even though you might be, and we've faced it many times, where we're running out of money. And the franchisee is sitting in front of you saying, listen, I have the money now, let's do it. Ends up costing you way more than you actually believe. Second thing would be take your time with franchising. If you're going to franchise something out, please take your time. Do your full analysis. Um, Choose the right team to develop it and take it outside from your jurisdiction. And the third thing would be the speed of execution and cost.
Mhm.
We specifically sat down and worked with a consultant for over 6 months to come down to the ideal costing for a potential franchisee. So identify, is it a mom and pop? Is it a city franchisor? Is it a master franchisee? And then go after them. Doing roadshows is very important. We were ignoring it at the beginning, and then we realized actually most people come to these shows and then delve more into the details, and you end up closing through these shows. So that's something definitely would recommend.
So, so if you again look at, how do you identify the right markets and partners, what are three things you're looking for? You go into this, are you doing a lot of deep research and trying to identify it? Do you look at trends? And then also the same with the partners. Once you find the market, how do you find the right person to work with?
Yeah, I'll give you an example of how we usually do it. So once we get approached from, I'll take an example, Spain. Someone sends us an inquiry from Spain, specifically, let's say Madrid. They want to take the rights for the city. First thing we do is we actually go and deep dive into the numbers of the city. So before even responding to the email, we would do a quick, and this was before ChatGPT and everything else. So we'd look at purchase power, we'd look at the population and all of that, and then come back to them with questions. Have you been in the business before? Have you been in F&B before? What is your budget? And slowly we automated the whole system where people go to the website and go through this process before even submitting their request. And then usually the perfect partner, I wouldn't say perfect, but the best partners are the ones who have been in the market, who have been in F&B before, and have the budget for it. Because most of the time you're just educating them in terms of financials, because you need to manage their expectations.
Hmm.
Some of them would come in saying, I would want a single unit, expecting to make 15 million a year, basically.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's not realistic.
So
Um,
you got to set the expectations properly, right?
yeah, yeah. So these are the two highlights, I guess, is looking at the city, at the market, and then the franchisors themselves.
So, let's kind of reverse a little bit. Let's say when somebody wants to come to Dubai, and I know it takes time in terms of relationships, but how do you do that? Because there's so many, we would have 180 companies in GSD now representing 73 countries, or AI companies primarily. but and they're some of the fastest growing in the world. How do they get into the market, in your market and expand? Do they really want them? Are they looking for companies that have, significant, like an OpenAI? Are they looking for companies like that to come in, or is it too hard to get in the market?
Um, Honestly, the market is extremely open to new investment, to new companies. For example, when you mentioned OpenAI, they did do the Stargate agreement in Abu Dhabi when it comes to AI. And I remember Kevin O'Leary saying something recently about how Abu Dhabi now comes third after the US and China in
Yeah.
regards to AI and technology. So specifically with AI and technology, it's unbelievable. Everything is here, everything is coming in. Regarding any other business activity, regulations have really advanced. Now you can open a trade license, which is the first thing that you need to do, literally within 5 minutes. And that's the promise. You get it within 5 minutes. So there's nothing stopping you post that. They've introduced golden visas, which I see the States is about to do very soon, but we've had this program for a couple of years now where people would invest specific amount of money and get that residency for the next 5 years without worrying about anything else.
Does that mean the amount
So
of money you invest, or does that, because some of the startups are just, scaling, right? So are they
yeah,
trying to get them to come, or is it just people that have a lot of money they want them to come in?
so on both sides, people who have extra money and they just want to buy assets, maybe live here or rent it out, there's a program for that. But we even have, is it, if I'm not mistaken, entrepreneurial visa. Basically, someone who wants to be an entrepreneur can apply and get a visa without going through a lot of hoops, and it's way cheaper. Even freelance visa that they're doing. So they're really pushing people to
Freelance visa,
move
what's that
into.
all about?
So you're in the UAE, living. You want to come in, live in Dubai. Uh, you don't pay income tax basically, and you want to work for someone in the States. So you move into UAE, you do your freelancer visa, and you can work remotely from here. It is very encouraging, and we see it a lot happening now.
That's great. That's fantastic. Um, So, investments in consulting, with your own experience advising brands like Caribou Coffee, what's your approach to guiding companies on growth and expansion? And as a managing director of investments at United Arab Bank, what trends are they most excited about in the investment landscape right now? And how do you get investment from a place like United Arab Bank?
So most of the banks do have their startup programs, let's say. If your business fits within that category, you get really favorable terms.
Hmm.
Um, there's a almost national bank called MS Development Bank, for example. They have programs for anything to do with manufacturing. So if someone is thinking to move their manufacturing into Dubai and UAE, but specifically they focus on Dubai, they do give them very good financing terms to push them into coming in. So the way of raising money can be done two ways. The typical way, which is going to VCs and hedge funds, which are readily available in DIFC, Dubai International Financial Market. There's a lot of companies there that are doing it on daily basis. Or you go directly to the banks and they're giving so many facilities and pushing money around.
Oh, that's fantastic. So, how do you stay ahead of market trends and ensure your ventures remain innovative? Door number one, and what's your approach to balancing risk, as a part of the decision making process? How important is that? And Harvard started the first MBA. It was to teach managers how to manage, not how to be entrepreneurs, right? In
Yeah,
fact, being an entrepreneur is sometimes diametrically opposed to what you learn in an MBA school, because
yeah.
risk, is important. Every day when you're building a company, you take risk, right? Is this going to work or not? And you got to make sure that the balance of the time it works, you're not going to be in business. But how do you go down through and do it? So one is, what do you see as the best next big opportunities in the UAE's and broader MENA environment, and what should they be looking for, the startups and investors?
Okay. I mean, looking at the trends at the moment, we might be a bit behind when it comes to the green initiatives. There's a lot of emphasis on green initiatives, green financing, carbon offsetting. I delved into it for a bit. I did consult for the UAE CSR, which focuses on these initiatives. At that point, I realized how big it is. Most banks are pushing for it. The government is pushing them to give out green financing to the point that basically they came back complaining, saying we don't have any projects to push out in terms of green financing. So for sure, in the next couple of years, the focus is fully on sustainability, CSR, green financing, carbon offsetting. Now, to your second question in terms of managing the risk, I also heard something about how do you come out with an idea in terms of percentages. So your core business is 70% is on what you do, and then 20% is for out there ideas, and then 10% is for the crazy ideas. I think that's a very good balance to strike, where you can have that focus on the 70% where you actually make money, generate money, and then the 20 and 30 you can split as you like. And I mean, maybe one other thing is not to be distracted with the concept of signal versus noise. I've seen a lot of people get distracted at some point. I'll give you an example. So in our development with Rentify, there's a lot of things that we're adding in the pipeline. And we were having a discussion earlier today with one of the financing partners saying, you guys are doing residential. I said, yeah. He said, when are you doing commercial? So commercial leases within shopping malls, there's a huge need. I know it because I've been in that field. And I told him what he saw. I said, you know what? Hold on a second. This is noise. The signal is we focus on what we're doing now. Let us execute on the residential side of the business, which is a huge market. Until we're fully focused, we're fully comfortable with that, then we can move into the commercial side. So that's one example of being distracted, basically. So that's how you minimize or idealize the risk taking within the business.
No, that's fantastic. Listen, we're coming up to the top of the show. So, I appreciate the conversation. We hear about exciting opportunities. I've personally been involved a couple, and we've had a couple of companies inside of GSD from the region. So, we're a family office mine, and we're also building some of the most sophisticated AI on the planet. I have an R&D group that works with us, as well as one of the fastest growing PR companies. And, you take it, the Germans have a phrase, Gestalt, the sum of the parts equal the whole. So when you see the companies, we see them sometimes when they're coming out of the UAE, they're coming out of MENA. The one thing is they're like Ferraris in a garage. People just don't know them. And the key is, how do you get it out? So, my own personal time, I spent a lot of time out in the valley, and I've been doing it for 39 years. You got to go where it is. You're going fishing, you got to go where the fish are.
Yeah.
Why do they come from MENA? Why do they come from places like that and coming over the valley? Because the valley is a port for the rest of the world. It's not a physical place in the sense. It's really a port. It's where ships come in and out, wherever they're from. And so understanding that's really important. And, I've been in tech and myself 39 years in the valley, and I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen companies like NVIDIA from 93, Salesforce. I remember right in the beginning when I got started, I was meeting some of the folks originally involved with it. And when Mark Benohoff had that idea and said it was thin client, people didn't believe it. But guess what? Now they do.
Yeah.
The same thing with Jensen. My friend from NVIDIA. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so you get out through, yesterday I had Otter AI on. Otter and AI, we started in my office, actually. So, we had a workspace out in Menlo Park, California. So Robin Hood was in the office. Otter was in the office. MariaDB was in the office. We all had shared space. And, Look at it now. It's unbelievable. Why? Because you share ideas, you share passion, and that's where people come to invest. It's like this is not rocket science. This is pretty simple. But so we love the companies over there, and in fact, on the GSD side, we have a number of companies from Africa too. So we look at the region. We think it's explosive. But again, we got to get the Ferrari out of the garage.
That's true.
And I know
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah.
got a lot of Ferraris over there, so but it's not just
Yeah.
getting them out of the garage; it's winning the race, right? So, um, Rashida, I really appreciate you taking your time for sharing these ideas. It's a very pleasant conversation, and you've got an inspiring journey, and you've given us a lot of insights, and I appreciate that. On the GSD side, we're also looking heavily about spending more time in the region, and so I'm going to be going over to Africa, doing a keynote speech in Nigeria. So we have companies in Africa today, but it's, how do we make it bigger? We're all
Yeah.
out there. We got to make this world. You said something about the green initiative. We got to make this world a better place for all of us. We
Yeah.
got a lot of craziness. We're only here a short period of time on this planet. We better go down through and try to help each other to live longer and better lives, right? And it ain't easy. My grandmother immigrated from Egypt. She was a Greek Egyptian, and she came over here with a dream. Had
Mm.
nothing in her pocket and came over here with a dream. You can do anything you want if you believe.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
you've done
100%.
you've done incredible things, and I want to thank you and thank all my audience for joining one more time. GSD presents Top Global Startups. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm your host. Thanks to all of you for looking at our show and participating. If you like and subscribe. We're here. Let's go out and change the world. Rashid, closing thoughts, and how do people get a hold of you?
Thank you very much for having me on, Gary, and voices like you and shows like you as well keep us all connected as a huge, big family. So thank you very much again. And they can find me on all social media platforms as my name, Rashed Hareb. Thank you again.
Yeah, sure. And if you want to stay on, we can talk for a few minutes after the show.
Sure.
So, to all of you out there, stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Thanks for joining Top Global Startups. We'll be back soon with another exciting edition. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice day and keep smiling.